Hey everybody there in YouTube land, I'm John and I'm back. Welcome to another segment of Musings of a Marine. That's my page, and we're going to call this segment actually Philippines Part 2. Going to talk some more about the country that I love, my second home, where my wife's from, the city of Iloilo. We're going to focus on that today. We're going to talk about my first couple of trips there and just how impactful in my life it has been. The first time I went over there was with my wife. It was in March of 2002. Things were still a little bit raw in the airline industry, and what I mean by that was, we were only 6 months removed from 9/11, the terrorist attacks, and so here we are flying out of Metro Airport on what was still Northwest Airlines back then, and I'm looking around, and they've got a brand new terminal there at Metro Airport in Romulus, Michigan. It's called the McNamara Terminal. It was brand new, so messed around in that a lot, and my back was really killing me too, so rather than sit down, I was walking all over the terminal checking it out. And unfortunately, I was also checking out in our waiting area by our gate to see if there was anybody who looked Arabic that was going to be getting on the plane, because obviously, like I said, that was still in the back of my mind at that time, and I even thought about it going to the airport. Wow, what if something happens? But fortunately it didn't. We made a long flight, about 13 hours, all the way to a city called Nagoya, Japan. I'd never even heard of the place. Come to find out, one of my favorite baseball players, Ichiro Suzuki, actually had lived there at one time. But it was a airport slash military base for Japan, and they don't use it anymore, but that's where we landed. And so we hung out there for a couple of hours, flying on a big 747. And they refueled it, and they picked up some passengers there, and then it was off to Manila. And it was just absolutely surreal once we got there, and I'm sitting outside in the domestic airport, and I'm looking at the palm trees, and I just couldn't believe that I was back. In 1985 in June when I left there, I thought to myself, of course, in the back of my mind, geez, I'm never going to see this place again, am I? Because it just cost so much to get there. But I married Diana, and we had been married almost 4 years at that point, and it was high time that I go meet her family. Other than a brother and a sister who lived in Canada, the rest of her family was over there. So I was looking forward to it very, very much. And the thing I really messed up on was I was only there in country for 8 days at a 10-day vacation. Of course, you lose a couple of days because of air travel. And it really, all it did was whet my appetite. But I did get to meet her family. We arrive in Manila. Her brother's there, a cousin of hers, our oldest brother, Pedro. Got to know him and chat with him. And he was a little shy at first. He didn't talk to me right away. He was talking to one of the security guards, and then finally he initiated conversation. And, he's been a friend of mine ever since. So that was a nice thing. But luckily for me, when we arrived, there was like a concession stand of some sort there that was open, and they were selling San Miguel beer. And, of course, anybody who's been to the Philippines knows all about that. It is a Pilsner beer. It's one of the best beers I've ever had. If you know anything about beers, there's various types, drafts and lagers and pilsners and ales. And pilsners are my favorite form of beer, even though I can't drink anymore. And that's what San Miguel is, or at least the most common one that they sell. And that's why I like it so much. Another prime example of an excellent pilsner beer would be Labatt's Blue. So, the great Canada beer. So, anyways, I'm kicking back. I'm looking up at the palm trees, and a breeze is blowing, and it's hot and humid, and I'm wearing long pants because I came from Michigan where it was only 40 degrees out. And I'm just taking it all in, and I just couldn't believe it. And so Di's sitting there talking with one of her friends and her cousins, and eventually I'm talking with Pedro. But unfortunately, we got there at about 11 o'clock p.m. Manila time, and our flight didn't leave till after 7 the next morning to Iloilo. That was the first flight out. And boy, did that stink. And one of the reasons that we met up with Di's cousin, Stella, was because she was a travel agent, and she had our tickets for us for the flight from Manila to Iloilo and back. So she was of great assistance to us. Still very thankful for her help and all that. She's now married to an American and living in Texas, as a matter of fact. Someone she met online. But that's how it all started. And we got to Iloilo the next day, and on a small jet in a very small airport, which is now where the Mega World condos and mall and all of that is located. And that runway is so small, that jet had to use every bit of it. Even though it was just a small little jet, it needed every bit of it to land. And they didn't have any sort of terminal walkway. You walk down a ladder out of the plane and into this kind of weather-torn terminal. And so we get through the terminal and we grab our luggage, and there's all these people staring through the window. And I'm not accustomed to this. The last 2 times I'd been to the Philippines, I landed at Clark Air Force Base, which was a military base. So I'm not used to having all these people staring at me, because I was amongst Americans before. And now, holy cow, why are these people looking at me? I thought they were staring at me, but come to find out, they were just taxi drivers and tricycle drivers, looking for a fare, somebody who might want to ride in their vehicle. So we get outside the terminal there, and awaiting for us is my mother-in-law, Anatalia, my sister-in-law, Hilda, and my brother-in-law, Romeo. And Romeo shakes my hand, and Hilda says a shy hello, and my mother-in-law, Anatalia, just kind of gives me a look like, who the heck is this guy? Why did Diana marry him? But, it was funny when Diana and I got married. At Diana's request, I had sent a letter to her asking for Di's hand in marriage, and she okayed it. So didn't really say anything to her after that. But, we went to our hotel, and there was loud drums beating outside, and the mattress was hard as a rock. So we didn't sleep very good the first night. That was a place called the Amigo Terraces, and hopefully they're better now than they were then. So the next day we transferred to the Days Hotel, which was really cool because they had a bar there and a laundromat and a grocery store and all kinds of things, and a restaurant where we got a free breakfast every morning. And I'll tell you about that breakfast. That was awesome because they had choices of what meal you wanted, and one of them was American fare. So I could have my bacon and eggs and toast in the morning, all included in the hotel cost. And I would look down through this huge picture window down at the street and watch the traffic go by. And at the time, Iloilo only had one traffic light in the entire city, and it wasn't there. It was kind of almost like a roundabout where this place is located. And they had a McDonald's there too, and a big McDonald's sign out there. And it was just fascinating watching the cars maneuver and how they had to rely on driver courtesy for everything. So it was pretty neat how everybody just found their way around, and nobody ever got into an accident that I saw either. People were much more patient. The average American could never drive in the Philippines. We're too impatient. There's too much road rage going on here. But it was neat to watch them navigate, their way through the traffic. We did go ahead and meet Di's family right away. We went over to their house in Lucky Home Subdivision, where our house now is, and met the family. Got to meet Mama and Papa, my parents-in-law, again, and Papa, being a seaman, he'd been around the world a little bit, and he could speak English, where Mama never learned it. And then the young kids came home from school, my niece Annette and nephews Peter and Christian. And I learned that everybody over there has a nickname. So, Pedro was Nonoi, which of course is a typical nickname for the oldest son in a family. And Romeo was, his nickname is Maroy. And Hilda's nickname was Nenning. And then you had Annette, who actually that was her middle name. Her real first name's Phyllis. I can understand why she goes by Annette. And then you had Peter and Christian, who go by Pito and Baba. And Baba because he's the baby of the family, and Pito because his name is Peter Dominique. So there you go. And of course I met Pedro's wife, also named Hilda, but she goes by Nenette. So this way you could distinguish the two of them, my sister-in-law and then her. And so you got to learn all of those names, and that's what everybody called each other. So we didn't spend a lot of time doing anything too exciting most of the week, just walking around the city, kind of getting to know it, and the SM City Mall, which was the the biggest mall there and still is. But we did go to a couple of places, which was pretty cool. One day, Romeo took us to the island of Guimaras, which is famous for its mangoes. And we went to a resort beach called Alabihod, which if any of you have been to the Philippines may have heard of that beach. It's one of the best resort beaches on the island of Guimaras. And Guimaras is right next to the island of Panay, where Ililo is. So it was only like a 20-minute boat ride from Iloilo to Guimaras, and then maybe another 20-minute tricycle ride to the beach. So that was pretty neat, and just hung out there. And surprisingly, still March, so even in the Philippines, the water can get a little cool, and so I really didn't do any swimming in there. So we checked that place out one day, and then the next day we took a regular ferry boat instead of the thin pump boat with the outriggers. We took a regular ferry boat over to another island called Negros, and we landed in the city of Bacolod, which is the biggest city on that island. And you have basically that island is split into two. There's Negros Occidental, where Bacolod is, and then there's Negros Oriental, which the biggest city there is Dumaguete. So anyways, we go to there, and we visit with some relatives of Diana's, and Bonifacio and Ida Sevillano, and hung out at their house. And I kind of felt left out of the conversation, even tried to take a nap, which couldn't happen. I was just too excited. But it was my mother-in-law, and Romeo went with us, and even Baba went with us too, which was kind of cool. And Baba at that time, he was very young. He was born in 1992. He'd have been 9 years old at that time. So he was shy, and he didn't really know much English either. So he didn't say much to me, but you could tell he kind of liked hanging around me. And so that was an interesting start to our friendship. And even when we would be back at the in-laws' house and we would take pictures, Baba would always kind of want to hang around with me. Also what happened was that, my back, because it was bothering me, I was getting massages from these blind masseuses, and I'd lay in the bed and they would massage my back, and Baba would just be sitting there hanging out, just wanting to be with his Tito John, Tito, his uncle over there. And So I kind of knew that the kid dug me, but there really wasn't a lot we could say to one another at the time because of his lack of English skills. And I didn't know any Hiligaynon, which was the dialect in Iloilo that they speak. So that's the way that turned out. So it was a nice little trip, but it was too short. And I ended up flying back a couple of weeks before Diana did. She stayed longer. And I'm not going to lie, it was heartbreaking. It really, really was. So that's how our first trip went. And actually, I'm going to cut this video short and talk about our second trip next time because there's just so much to say. But it really, really whetted my appetite towards Filipino culture. I started watching Filipino movies more and teleseries and things of that nature. And as a matter of fact, I watched a teleseries afterwards called Bituin, and it starred this girl right here, Carol Banawa. And I am telling you, she is one of the best singers in the world. And I've got a couple of her CDs. She can speak fluent English, can sing fantastic in fluent English, and then turn around and just blow you away singing in Tagalog too. So that was kind of the start of all of that. And I got to find out about this certain sexy actress in the Philippines over there too by the name of Patricia Javier. And it was funny, Diana made a comment about, well, she's not really popular over there. And yet when we were going to the huge Mall of Asia in Manila right before I went back, there was a big billboard sign with her on it. So obviously some people knew who she was. And just in case you're wondering what she looks like, what do you think? Pretty sexy, huh? She's married to an American too, by the way. She met a chiropractor in San Diego, married him, and now they moved back to the Philippines, and he has a chiropractor business in the Metro Manila area. Maybe someday I'll meet him if my back takes a crap on me again. But anyways, this is Philippines Part 2. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and some of my experiences. And I can't wait to share Philippines Part 3 with you in a couple of weeks because I'll be off from having surgery. I'm donating a kidney to my brother, if you can believe that. And I'll have plenty of time for more of these videos then because I won't be working for a month. And we'll talk about my second trip there. Until then, this is John signing off. Semper Fi to everybody out there, and take care.